So, House of the Dragon Season 2 is finally over, and this will be my full review for the season. If you want to go check out all my reviews for each episode, I released a video on every single one of them, so go check that out. I'll try to have a playlist set so you can just go right through them, but I went through episode to episode and reviewed everything. This will be my overall thoughts on the season as a whole, and I have some things to say, because there is an overall sort of stigma going around the Game of Thrones fandom that this season was a big fat disappointment. That it did not live up to the first season, and is not one of the best seasons of Game of Thrones as a whole. Now, I have a sort of interesting perspective on this, because in a way, I feel like a lot of that is true. This season is definitely weaker than Season 1, and it is not nearly what I think a lot of people expected it to be. But at the same time, I think it was still excellent, and so much better than the worst seasons of Game of Thrones. As this season did a lot to push the story forward, at least when it comes to character development. It's a season that stretched out the story enough to allow us to have more seasons of this story, whereas if they just flew through it, this would be a very short show. But it also gave us everything we wanted. We got a little bit of battling, we got some dragon action, and we got the politics that we love about Game of Thrones. But there were definitely some things about this season that just, for me, did not work, and let's get into them. So the season as a whole is taking place directly after the first season as we follow the Dance of the Dragons, the beginning of this great Targaryen civil war that we've heard so much about, especially if you've read the books. Aegon has been crowned king in King's Landing. He is the usurper, and he's this young, drunken fool who actually does have a kind heart. And him and his brother Aemond, who is this prick who rides the biggest dragon in the kingdoms, are starting this war with Rhaenyra, who is the rightful queen, who is on Dragonstone, has the dragon advantage. She also has Daemon, who is her badass husband, who is just the greatest war leader of the times. And the season is pretty much kind of this calm before the overall war breaks out, and then some war stuff spread throughout. And because of that, it is very slow moving. All of the actual main characters of this show are kind of stagnant this season. You know, Aemond and Aegon are sort of trapped at King's Landing, and Rhaenyra is literally trapped at Dragonstone. They can't really move from their positions, so they're fighting this war in a more political, strategic way, where their armies and their dragons are off doing their thing, and they're just kind of in the background doing their thing. So because of that, I could see how this season could be very boring. This show also made the decision to really follow the books directly and have Daemon go to Harrenhal to raise an army. And they decided to have him there, being haunted by ghosts for 7 episodes, which is one of the biggest complaints I've seen about this season. Daemon being one of the most exciting characters in this show didn't get to do that much in this season, because literally, for 7 episodes, he's at Harrenhal, just hanging out there. And there are some really great parts of it. I love his interactions with the River Lords, and Daemon and Matt Smith as a whole is just so great here, but I can understand why people did not dig this arc, although I do love the overall thematical purpose of Daemon's journey. When you look at his whole journey from afar, it is actually one of the most clever, strategically written things in the show that needed to happen for everything else this character does to work in the later seasons. Whereas in the book, you don't really see that turn. You don't see that turn of this character. This show needed to do it. I just think they could have shrunk it down. I also don't particularly love Rhaenyra's arc this season. She's kind of this queen who's just bored. Whereas in the last season, with the death of her son Lucerys, she could have became this vengeful, mad queen, this angry, bitter person that wanted to find a peaceful resolution to this war, but now that's done. She wants to burn them all, and that is something that I thought they were going to go to when this season started, but instead she's still kind of this, we need to find peace. I don't really want to fight, but I do want to fight. I'm bored. I don't want to... And that kind of gets old quickly, so I could see why people are disappointed with that aspect. It felt redundant, and her arc never really kind of transformed into something else. I don't understand a lot of the decisions that her character makes in this season. But then you have all the other characters who I think all have great arcs. Jace, right? The true prince of the Seven Kingdoms. Or is he? Because we all know that Jacaerys Valerion is actually a bastard that is just pretending to be a Valerion. But he actually is a good man and a good future king. He's a great prince and a good leader and like a kind-hearted person, but he has this baggage to him that he is a bastard, and he's kind of dealing with that in this season of how do I actually be this prince, this future king, when nobody believes I'm deserving of that. And I love everything involving his character this season. I also love the dragon seeds. This is one of the most interesting parts of the book. All of these bastards who eventually come to Dragonstone and become these dragon lords, and where that goes in future seasons. I love that they spent a lot of time building up to this and setting it up and didn't just have it be some random thing that happens in the middle of the season. This was a major aspect of this story for this show. And I love how different all of them are. Adam of Hull being kind of this loyal Valerian bastard. Hugh Hammer being this gigantic badass badass looking dude who's just kind of honorable and wants to support his family. And then Ulf the White being this charismatic kind of loose ball of a character. I love all of them, and I think the setup for all of them is great. I also loved everything that happened at King's Landing in this season, especially early on. Aegon Targaryen, my god. I think Tom Glencarney wins the award for best performance of the season. His performance as Aegon is incredible. He sells this kind of in over his head king, this boy who has never been trained in leadership, now having to be the king in the middle of the greatest war in the history of Westeros. He's a loose end, he's kind of funny and charismatic, but also a child at times. I love everything about this character in this show, and everything that happens with him, I think, is some of the best stuff of the season. I really love Alicent Hightower's arc in this show, and of course, Olivia Cooke is still incredible. Her arc of realizing kind of the mistake that she made is really beautiful to see. Her losing grip on power and realizing that she never really even wanted that power to begin with, and she's just been so kind of fogged out by all the chaos of the people around her. Otto Hightower, I wish there was more of him this season, but Rhys Ifans, when he's on camera, when he's doing his thing, is incredible. Aemon Targaryen is still terrifying. I don't particularly love his character as much as I wish he did, as I feel like he's so over-the-top sociopathic and just so crazy and badass that it doesn't make that much sense at times, but still, he is a threatening enough villain. Kristen Cole, he's a prick. I don't like him. I don't like anything with him this season. Worst character of the show. But all the Greens actually ended up being the more interesting characters this season. They were the more fun characters to watch just because there was so much chaos around them and so much politicking, whereas for the Blacks, it was really just, I guess we're sitting around and waiting for Daemon to stop his fever dream at Harrenhal. And of course, we had the Battle of Rook's Rest with Rhaenys Targaryen and Aemon and Aegon. And of course, it's as great as we thought it was going to be if you had read the book. It's awesome. It's beautiful. The CGI is great, and the consequences of that battle are insane. I also still love how they are changing some things from the book in a way that still aligns with the histories of Westeros, because the book is written as a history book in the world of Westeros. So there are some accounts that don't give you a lot of information on certain aspects of the war because they are first-hand perspective pieces in that novel from people that exist within Westeros. So they did not have all of the inside knowledge. They did a lot of this in Season 1 that was very, very great, like Rhaenyra's first husband, Valerion, getting killed, right? In the book, it says that he dies, but obviously if you watch the show, you know that they faked his death, so obviously the histories would report that he's dead, but in the show, he's alive, so that is an interesting change. This season does some changes like that I do enjoy. Like with the Battle of Rook's Rest and Aegon appearing there. Like, he appeared because he was drunk and wanted to get involved in the battle. In the book, you think he was supposed to be there. Little changes like that add more character depth, and I really like that. Other changes, though, I don't really totally understand. Like removing one of the dragon seeds and putting in Rhaena Targaryen instead of the dragon seeds. I don't really understand that yet, but I guess we'll see how that develops in the future. Removing one of Aegon's kids, which makes Aemond the heir to the throne. If you didn't know, in the book, Aegon has 2 sons and a daughter, and then one of the sons is obviously killed, but he still has the other son who becomes the heir after that kid's death. In the show, the other son is eliminated, so he's just not there. So when his first son dies, Jaehaerys, Aemond is now the heir, which kind of creates this, like, why doesn't he just kill Aegon? And that's obviously a thread throughout, you know, a story, a plot thread throughout the season, but it never comes to fruition, and it honestly doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't he just kill Aegon and take the power? I also think Blood and Cheese was kind of a letdown compared to what it is in the books. In the books, it's a lot better. And then, you know, Rhaenyra and her relationship with the common girl, I forget her name, but she's a big character in the books. There's some stuff with that did not need to be shoehorned into the show. But overall, I really enjoyed the season. Obviously, it was slower paced than Season 1. Season 1 had to cover like 20 years of history in 10 episodes. This show had to cover like 2 weeks of history in like 7 episodes. So it's a lot slower, the pace here. But the good thing is, having a slower season like this that allowed us to have a lot of character development, a lot of quiet moments, and some battles spread throughout, will allow Season 3 and Season 4 to not have to focus as much on developing characters, since it has already been done in Season 2, and now we could focus on the big picture stuff, the war, the battles, the big major beats of the Dance of the Dragons, because we're right there. We are literally at the stepping stones of those big moments. They might happen in Episode 1 and Episode 2 of Season 3, and I can't wait for it. Now, of course, the obvious fact, we have to wait 2 years because it takes forever to make TV shows in 2024. That sucks. But either way, I'm still excited. The wait won't be that long, guys. It'll be 2 years before you know it, and Season 3 will come, and we will all be excited again. But overall, I love this season. I will give House of the Dragon Season 2 a 4.5 out of 5. I think it is still excellent television. The one thing I do think was missing from this season that Season 1 had, Paddy Constantine. His performance in Season 1 is so remarkable, and you do feel his absence in Season 2. It's the one major thing I think this is really missing. But overall, thank you for watching. Make sure to like this video, subscribe for more, turn on notifications. I post every single day. I'll see you in the next one.